Blake,
Hello.
so good to see you.
It is a pleasure. Oh, this is gonna be good. I'm excited for this.
Pleasure is mine. But Blake Leeper, I mean, most people know who you are about now, but the introduction is this man is a world-class athlete. He has done things that most people with 2 legs and a half a brain have never done. And he has conquered not only his own spirit, but he's conquered the major athletes of the world on the field. So I'm very interested in having dialogue with Blake. My approach to wellness is about inspiration, it's about awakening, it's about purpose. And I know that Blake is traveling with me. Our language may be slightly different, but I know we're saying the same things.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, we are. So my first question is like being in the zone.
Yes.
Is that something we would be able to identify as awareness? Is that being present?
Yes. And that's one of the things that I love when we have the conversations, you know, when we're off camera, we're just meeting up and just talking, and you ask me these questions and I have to really think about it and really dive in, and I might know it, and I might use it, but I never get to talk about it and to identify it. So I'm extremely excited about this, but just that being in the zone. And when I think about being in the zone, I even take it back when I'm running a race, right? And I go back to London in 2012 when there was 85,000 people in the stands, and right before the gun goes off, they're calling out the names of the racers, and they called out one racer, and all 85,000 people stood up when Pistorius was called, and then just hearing the crowd, you know what I mean, cheering, all in one unison, just and then all of a sudden the commentator on the speaker said shh. So it goes from 85,000 people to complete silence, and right before the gun goes off, you have that conversation with yourself of that level of awareness.
Yes.
That level of, do you understand? This is the conversation I'm having with myself.
Yes,
do you understand where you're at right now? Do you understand what you're doing?
Yes.
Do you understand how important this is? Not only for you, but for your family, for your country, for every disabled human being out there. And all this is going through your head within 2 to 3, 4 to 5 seconds before the gun goes off. Then I like to have those conversations with myself, because once the gun goes off, it's just muscle memory.
Yeah.
I just, I can, it's like I'm running a 45-second race, a 44-second race in the 400 meters, a 20-point-second race, 21-second race, but it's like I'm moving in slow motion.
Yes.
And all 85,000 people turn into a blur, and all of my movements, like I'm living in a dream, and I'm just so locked in and just so focused, just in that moment, that nothing else matters. Like nothing else has value to me, just in that moment. I feel like it's like a supernatural feeling.
Yes.
Almost. And then I cross the line, I go through those motions, and I'm having this conversation with myself. Okay, do this right, then. Okay, drive your head, and bring your head up, and make sure your arms are in the right position. Make sure your legs are in the right position. Make sure you're moving. Okay, you and your coach talked about this. At this point, you want to make your move. Then you look to your right and say, okay, oh wow, that guy did this. Like I can, and then when I'm in the zone, when I'm locked in, I can tell you exactly what the guy to my right is doing, and I can tell you exactly what the guy to my left is doing. And I'm just doing that off my peripheral vision as I'm watching myself.
360 degrees.
It really is.
Yes. Could you conceive of living in that state?
Wow. I mean, if you was able to channel that, and you gotta understand, I can do this just in that moment.
Yes.
So you have a 45-second race, or I train day in and day out on the track, in the weight room, through all these progressions, all these people in my life that's on my team. We work for that one 45-second moment, and it's like a supernatural feeling. But to be able to channel that throughout your daily life, that's some next level stuff, right?
However, something to be sort of aspired to.
Yes.
So the reason I'm asking is that, being present, being aware, realizes that makes us, or allows us to realize that we are not our thoughts. We are a soul, an entity, a light, a frequency. And so And being present means that you're in touch with that light, but being absent means you're constraining it, resisting it.
Yes.
Being absent means that you actually believe your thoughts.
Yes.
And so, and you know how critical it is not to allow your mind to take over.
Yes, that's really tough. I remember we was having a conversation, and I had an injury on my prosthetic leg. It was a bone bruise that put me out for 3 weeks.
Yes.
And in that process of putting me out, I'm normally a happy person. The fact that I was born without legs and had to go through those trials and tribulations, and I tell people, this is a blessing. Like, the fact that I'm missing my legs is a blessing, because every single day that I wake up, I have a moment of, it humbles me first, and saying, Blake, you have to get down to your knees to get back up every single morning. So where a lot of people, they get up and they're mad at the world, and they're mad at the alarm goes off, and they go to the bathroom, they're mad, they're brushing their teeth, and they're mad on the way to work, and they're just mad the whole day and the whole week.
Are you saying they're feeling sorry for themselves?
Yes, they're feeling sorry for themselves. So where for me, even if I had that moment where I could put my legs on and go to the track and go run, I stopped feeling sorry for myself immediately.
Yes.
But when I was hurt, it's a little bit tougher,
Yeah.
because that ability of what I felt like defined me, of pushing through, and where a lot of people felt sorry for me, I proved to them by stepping on the track and training as hard as I possibly can, and trying to be one of the fastest men in the world, was showing not only to the world, but to me, that I don't feel sorry for myself.
Right.
But what if I'm injured? And what if I can't go do that?
Right.
Once that's taken away from me in that moment, and I caught myself in bed, depressed. I was worried, I had anxiety of that perception of what people thought,
Yes.
what I should be doing or what I could do. And I was living that, and it freaked me out, and I caught myself due to this injury.
Yes.
I couldn't move. I was stuck. I was stuck in bed. I was stuck in my thoughts. I was in a deep, dark place, and it was just not a good place to be.
So you abandoned yourself.
Yes.
Okay. So again, your values at that point, before that point, were by comparison.
Yes.
What will they think? So, but we have to get into a place where what they think really doesn't matter.
Okay.
What we think and how we feel matters. And how can we restore that process? The dialogue we had prior to this interview was, for instance, when I feel sorry for myself, which happens,
Right.
then I don't feel sorry for myself for feeling sorry for myself.
Okay. I like that.
I acknowledge the fact that I am potentially tired.
Right.
And we talked about the light and the frequency
Yes.
and how the light shines.
Yes.
And when our batteries are empty, there is no light. So, my contention is that depression is fatigue, worn out, sort of almost like a company that's bankrupt. There's just nothing left on the batteries to shine your light.
Yep.
And we have to be cognizant of that. We have to appreciate and respect it, and then recharge and rejuvenate.
Yeah. Identify it.
Yeah, identify it,
Yeah.
not resist it or constrain it. And one of the things that I say to my people, my clients, my friends, is that if there's a sin, the sin is to reject oneself. But when we embrace these expressions, then we become compassionate, genuine. And in that moment, there's a space. And in that space, rejuvenation occurs.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it.
And that's one thing I realized as you was telling me now, and as you're speaking this, I'm like, oh, that's, I was hurt.
Yes.
So I was feeling bad. And so there was that process of feeling bad, and it was wearing me out. Then I was trying to fight, like, I'm feeling bad. So I'm trying to fight back to dig myself out that hole of feeling bad. So that was wearing me out as well, trying to dig myself out this hole. And at the end of the day, I'm just worn. I was worn out till I couldn't even get out the bed. But instead of just like you said, just being in that moment and just saying, you know what, this is what it is.
Yes.
You know what I mean? This is what I feel. I need to rest myself. Stop worrying about it and say, okay, I am feeling down right now. So embrace it.
In other words, be in the zone there also. So the zone doesn't just happen on the track. It happens in your bed. It happens wherever you are required. You step into that space of showing up for yourself.
Right.
And then you're in the zone.
So my question to you is, now I'm excited. So my question, so for me to be in that zone, you know, it has to be something valuable to me. Like at the track, like I've trained 3 or 4 or 5 months, years for this track meet, for this race. So I kind of have this outer body experience of being in the zone. How can I channel that throughout my daily life?
By realizing that you're the value in your life. You know, what you're doing. For instance, what you're doing is like when I talk to you, I can see how you shine and how your light is impacting and powerful. And you can encourage people everywhere in the world just by literally opening your mouth and opening your heart.
Right.
But if you're not opening your heart towards yourself, then what are you saying? You're saying, you know, I'm not being an example. I want to be an example for others, but who's going to be an example for you? You have to be that example.
Wow.
So
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
But that's what we, for instance, you know, the work we do. I think there's a lot of correlation between the work we're doing, and we just talked about awareness and becoming aware of who we are, becoming aware of our thoughts, and then the second step is responsibility. Okay. You know, you have proven beyond doubt that you are able. You are not disabled. Yeah. So when we're response able, we have the ability to respond because we're present. When we're reactive, impulsive, compulsive, we are disabled. Yes. By choice. Now, what's interesting is that there is always choice. When you choose not to choose, you have chosen not to choose. And that is your power. Yeah. All of us have to go through that.
You have that choice.
And so if we correlate the dialogue that we just had to the potential when we feel ourselves being constrained or stuck or feeling sorry for ourselves, then the moment we take responsibility, become responsible and forgive ourselves, then we embrace that situation, the space occurs and the rejuvenation is restored. Yes. So that's what's so important in the process. Yes,
that's what I love. I heard something the other day is fault and responsibility. You know, and you know, somebody looked at my situation, the fact that I was born without legs. Yes. It's really nobody's fault. No. It's you know, a lot of people when they dealt with a hardship or a hard time, a trial or a tribulation, they're so quick. They're trying to point fingers. Yes. Right. They're trying to figure out whose fault must it be for me to be this upset, or whose fault is it that did me like this? And then, like, I love what you just said. It just clicked for me. It's nobody's fault, but it's our responsibility.
There's only one law in life, and that is cause and effect. Okay. And you have two choices basically. One is to be a complainer, and the other one is to be a conscious creator. If you complain, you're pointing one finger away from you. 3 fingers point right back at you. Yes. So you become a complaint, which is a quarter of your existence, 1/4 of your existence.
It's complaining.
Complaining. And that's living a disability. Yeah. It has nothing to do with legs or hands. It has to do with your perspective. Are you a conscious creator, or are you an unconscious calamity?
Yeah. Wow. That makes so much sense.
So, third, purpose. Okay. Now I know you are a motivational speaker. Yes. I know you're an athlete. I know you want to be an example in your own life to encourage other people to be and do the same. Yes. How do you define your purpose?
Man, so I define my purpose, and it's kind of slippery slope because it's kind of scary, because I used to define my purpose as the accolades that I used to get, the medals, right? Yes. Breaking the world records, right? I used to define my purpose, and I never forget when I was training for the 2012 Paralympic Games. You know, my purpose was, I moved away from home, and I sacrificed a lot, you know, to be in this moment. I sacrificed a lot to try to qualify for the U.S. Paralympic team. I sacrificed a lot to break the world record. And I did all those things, and then I went to the Paralympic Games. I took a silver and bronze, and you know, I made my hometown proud, and I made my family proud, and they had Blake Leeper Day back home, and they gave me the keys to the city, had a big old parade for me. But then it was over. Yeah. It was gone. Yeah. And all those years and all those hours of training and sacrifice had no value more to me, and I lost my purpose. So it was almost like I had to take a step back and redirect and say, who am I? What do I stand for? What am I fighting for? And then I had to really make my purpose and my mission so big, right? That it's a never ending. And almost, I feel like I'm searching for it to this day. always trying to find something that where it never stops.
Right.
I don't. There's no end game.
Well, it's interesting that I know those were driving factors. They were motivators,
Yes.
but they weren't inspirations.
Yeah.
So there was something at the end of it. It's like the carrot for the donkey or the tail for the dog. And so, what I heard you talk about was goals. My goal was to prove myself. My goal was to establish my value.
Yeah.
And then when you actually achieved it, there was an emptiness.
Yes.
So when I talk about purpose, I talk about the rudder for your vessel. It's like, what is the path? What is the path you are walking? Are you walking with yourself, towards yourself, away from yourself? Are you enjoying the moment? Are you enjoying the process? I know there are accolades. I know that there's values and medals to be achieved and races to be won. But what I'm interested in is enjoying me now, here with you. So again, bringing the concept of being in the zone all the time. Now, purpose means love. Purpose means to shine your light. Purpose means to be of service. And I know that you are being of service to yourself, to me, to your community, and to thousands and thousands of people out there.
Yes.
So how does it feel to take on that purpose of being a shining light? But if you're not allowing yourself to enjoy the light, how can you allow others to enjoy it?
That is true. I love it. I mean, when you ask me, one of the greatest feelings in the world is being that light in that moment. I never forget. I was at a motivational talk, and I was actually there to talk to high school basketball boys, and I was giving them my speech, and I was talking to them, and I was trying to motivate them right before the game and for the tournament. But there in the crowd was a young boy there, missing. He was a double leg amputee above the knee, and he was about 6 years old. His name was Charlie, and his mom, after the speech, his mom brought him up to me. And he, at 6 years old, he really didn't understand what the words that I was saying. He really didn't even comprehend what I was saying. But what he did see is I was like him.
Yes.
And what he did see, I had a smile on my face, and people was around me, asking for my autograph and taking pictures. And what I was able to do was to pick him up and hold him and put him on my knee. I looked and I was like, look, we actually had the same type of legs and the same logo. And I was like, I'm just like you. We're just like each other. And I had my medals, my Olympic medals, and I handed them to him. I was like, see, you can do the same thing just like I can do. And even though my words didn't mean much to him at the time, I could understand that he got it.
Oh, he did. And it was the frequency you resonate.
Yeah.
And it permeates everything. I can feel it. I'm halfway brought to tears.
Yeah.
Not because I'm crying for sorrow, but because I'm touched. And that's your power, to touch people on so many different levels. But we have to allow ourselves to be touched ourselves in the process, to enjoy that. And so purpose is the most powerful process. It becomes the path you walk. And it really is about enjoying the moment, and about, if you really want to collect medals, collect the moments of the zone within that process of being there for you. Because the moment you show up for yourself, you can show up for somebody else.
Yes.
Otherwise it wears off.
Yeah.
Commitment. Now, you're one of the most committed guys I met.
Thank you.
Commitment holds everything together. And one of the most important things that I can sort of contribute to commitment is how people command themselves. I'm trained in many different ways.
Yes.
I can see body language. I can see what people emanate. But what stands out is how people command themselves.
I like that. I like that. I guess that comes back to value, of just knowing your value to the world, your value and your purpose to just the next generation, to somebody else, and walking into your calling. That's what I love, and that's why I love trying to and that's the interesting part about it, is that I was born without legs, and I felt like my calling and my purpose is to run track and field in this moment, to try to be one of the fastest men in the world. Statistically speaking, factual speaking, men told me that this should not happen.
Right.
But if it's your purpose, if it's your calling, then anything is possible.
Yes.
If you can channel that, then I have the chance to qualify for the Olympic Games. I have the chance to run against the fastest men in the world, and I was born without legs. But I was understanding that this is who I am, and I took a leap of faith. I did the unthinkable. I believed in myself and believed in my team, and people believed in me when I couldn't even believe in myself at certain times. But when I put my blades on, and I'll never forget when I was the first time I ever got my running legs. And I remember my prosthetist at the time. He put them together and he read the manual, and he told me, "Look, Blake, I understand, but it's going to take about 3 months to kind of get used to the legs.
Right.
So don't be disappointed if you don't run them on the first day. Let's walk on them, then let's skip. Then once we skip, we'll start running months down the road." So he gave me the legs, and we go to the track, and I'm walking the curve. And then by the time I'm on the straight, I walked 100 meters. By the time I'm on the straight, I was just running. I mean, I was sprinting. First time ever. Everybody's jaws dropped to the ground. But in that moment, I felt free.
Yeah.
I felt like this was right. Nothing mattered. I was in my zone.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I was in my zone. That's what it was. And so, like, channeling that and going back, like, that's my zone. That's the reason why. So when I put my blades on every single time, and when I tell people, I'm trying to be the fastest man in the world, I'm trying to run in the Olympics, I feel like I had to go back to that one moment when I was in my zone for the first time I put my legs on. And that's all I need. That's all I need to keep pushing forward. That's all I need to wake up each and every day to go to the track to train.
I want to commit. I want to connect that with commitment.
Yeah.
So commitment means to give your word, to keep your word,
Yeah.
to be totally committed, to be all in. And so what you did at that curve, you stepped into it. You stepped into that role, and you haven't looked back ever since.
Yeah.
Now, commitment means you trust yourself. It means to be trustworthy. It also means that you have or feel worthy to achieve, to receive. When we're committed, our hearts are open, and we're willing to accept the gifts of light, the gifts of love, the gifts of the world, how the world nourishes us. If we cannot commit, we cannot receive and connect.
Wow. So it's a commitment to the process.
Well, the commitment has to be to life, and you are life.
Oh,
If you're not committed, you're rejecting yourself.
Okay.
And if you are rejecting yourself, you're disconnecting from the world.
Okay.
So the heart stands for unity, to be unified in the process, and to realize that we are one with all.
Gotcha.
That we're sitting in this beautiful environment, and we're breathing the essence from the trees at the same time. We're providing for the trees oxygen.
Okay.
Or carbon dioxide. We're getting the oxygen from the trees. So everything in life is co-collaborated, co-created, coexisting.
Yes.
When we are totally committed, we're committed to life, we're committed to the planet, to being the best we can.
Got you.
You know, and I know you are.
Yeah.
I just want to, I'm sort of languaging it slightly differently, because once you stepped into it, you established your commitment. And I'm just wanting you to remind yourself in that same way, because when we are under the covers, when we do require assistance or compassion from ourselves, then coming back to that commitment is really, really beneficial.
Yes, that makes sense. That makes so much sense. I love it. So my question, like, for me, I feel like my adversity is my advantage. The fact that, the fact that I was born without legs has allowed me to have this perception and perspective of life, and to really understand, the true meaning and the true value of the process. But for somebody who maybe hasn't faced, certain trials and tribulations, or maybe they don't know what trials and tribulations there are to channel that, what advice would you give them?
Well, that's a big question.
Yeah.
In that space, the advice I would give them is to forgive themselves for the adversity they themselves have brought to themselves with their perspective, with their belief system. You just told me that you looked at your adversity as a blessing.
Yes.
And that's a perspective.
Yes.
How you see things is what you get.
Yes.
If I look at something and argue for my limitations, those limitations will be expressed. If I look at something and look at my greatness reflected in that, that greatness will be reflected. And you have reflected that greatness in your accomplishments.
Yes.
So you can only change one thing in life,
Yeah.
and that is your perspective towards yourself.
Mm.
At the moment you do that, the whole world changes, and we call that a miracle. Now, we have not been diving into the steps, but the greatest magic I've seen in my life is this. All that you devote your awareness to
Mm-hmm.
will grow and expand.
Okay.
If you think about what you want, it grows and expands.
Got you.
If you think about what you don't want, it grows and expands.
Got you.
So that being present, being able to direct your energy, your light,
Yeah.
to the essence of what you want is the opportunity. However, if you don't want yourself, you cannot be a conscious, willing creator because you rejected yourself as such.
From day one. So your perception is rejection.
Yes.
Wow.
So that's the opportunity. That's where it
Yeah.
is. And then because of the dialogue, if we move into step number 5, which
Mhm.
is progression, how are we reflecting our view to ourselves? It's like, for instance, your personal image, your self-image is what's being reflected. If you trust yourself, if you're committed, if you're loyal, if you keep your word, you become trustworthy, and your permission for prosperity is activated. Because then you can receive, you're no longer afraid or ashamed of the light.
Yeah.
If you reject yourself, you become a shame-based identity.
That's what you're projecting off.
Yes. If you love yourself, on the other hand, acknowledge yourself, you become a trustworthy, radiant light that activates and manifests and attracts, likewise, energy. So we become the conduits or the creators of the receptive process,
I love that.
negative or positive.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that. And one thing I did identify, so I got to add to this, is how you saying, like, how you view yourself.
Yes.
You know, growing up, people always viewed me disabled.
Right.
Right? They like, you have the disability, but I was born like this.
Yes.
I know nothing different. It's not like I had my legs and lost them. Like, this is who I am as a person. Me, like, my brother puts his shoes on one shoe at a time. I put my legs on one leg at a time. I didn't realize I was disabled until I became older and older and older, and other people's reactions. And I tell people, my biggest disability is not the fact that I'm missing my legs. My biggest disability is what people around me assume what I can do because I'm missing my legs, and what they project
Yes.
on me. Like I kept hearing that, what they project on me.
Well, let me take you back to step number 5.
Okay.
This is so significant and so open. Because when I open my mouth, the only thing that comes out is me.
Mm-hmm.
So if I were to view you as disabled, I
Right.
would be viewing myself as disabled because that would be the reflection.
Oh, that's so they're viewing themselves when whatever they set their goals for me, or how high I can go.
Absolutely.
That's what they view. That's how they view
They're
themselves.
the complainers. 1 finger forth, 3 fingers back. So what they're doing is they're reflecting their perception, and they, in that moment, reflect how they view the world as limitations instead of greatness and opportunity. So this is step number 5 is so incredibly beautiful because to will is to act. We joked about this in the kitchen.
Right.
We talked about trying.
Right.
And to try is to lie. If you're not taking action, you're not willing anything. You may be longing or desiring or
Right.
thinking or hoping,
Right.
which is great if you intend nothing.
Right.
But if you want to do something, you have to take action. To will is to act. And when the way we move, the way we speak, the way we dress is reflecting how we view ourselves and what we feel worthy of. So that's so important. Other people can't define you.
That's what I love. Cause we got especially what I'm dealing right now with this. Okay, so right now, because I ran the 44.4, I broke my own world record in the 400 meters. Literally 3 or 4 or 5 days later, I get a letter from the Olympic Committee, and they said, because you ran so fast,
Right.
and because you are disabled,
Right.
you must have an unfair advantage against your able-bodied competitors, and they labeled it as technological doping.
Yes.
And when I can't get the world to view me, even at the highest level with the Olympic Committee, is I'm not disabled.
Of course not.
I'm not disabled. I train, I practice, I work hard, just like every other able-bodied competitor.
Yes.
And I feel like because they view me, and the reality, like what you said, how they view their self
Yes.
as disabled, then it must be an unfair advantage. And I feel like they see me as a disabled athlete and not an athlete living with a disability.
Well, they're seeing themselves as being disabled primarily. What they're seeing is fear. They're up against the system that they themselves have created, the story that they are protecting.
Yes.
So, but it doesn't reflect on you, and you can't take that seriously.
Right.
You must not take their view of themselves in. Allow them to have their view. You continue your process.
Right.
You continue your journey, and your journey will reflect how able you are.
Ooh.
They will not reflect it.
I love that. Thank you.
Step number 6.
Okay.
We talked about being in the zone.
Okay.
In step number 6, we've moved into the heart because we're committed now.
Right.
The heart is unifying, and we're operating out of that unity.
Okay.
So in step number 6, we have insight, which is seeing with the unity of the heart versus the duality of the mind.
Okay.
So there's no longer the comparison or the judgment or the rejection.
Right.
You're just a witness in your process. For instance, when we talked about you fatigued and under the covers, feeling sorry for yourself, if you would have been able to, at that point, to witness that state without judging it, you would have restored yourself very, very quickly.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so which is an opportunity, and we're all growing. We're on this path together, and we're realizing how this works and how we can create the dialogue and the framework to sustain this kind of viewing.
Okay.
But when we're in insight, we're in a perpetual state of awareness. And that means there's no judge, there's no jury, there's no executioner.
You're just living.
You're just there. And if you falter, if you fall down, if you wear yourself out,
Right.
you compassionately rejoice and rejuvenate because you embrace versus kicking yourself when you're down.
That's it takes back when I'm in my races and I'm running. Gun goes off. Between the time the gun goes off and the time I cross the line, I'm just sitting back and watching.
Yes.
I'm literally watching myself like, wow, this is a very interesting race. Look at him go, and then him is me.
Great analogy.
And then I cross the line, and then it's back to like, I'm like, what just happened?
Yes.
And I have to look at the clock.
Yes.
And I have to look at the crowd's response to be like, whoa, is this? I thought I was dreaming, but this is real. This is reality.
Wow.
But like that's how when you talk about that,
That gives me goosebumps. It's almost like viewing you out of body.
it is.
Yes, your body is running, but your spirit's watching.
That is exactly what that is exactly what happens.
And that's a state we can assume if we practice wanting ourselves. So it's a process, it's a practice. I'm not making light of any of it, but we understand the dialogue, which gives us an advantage.
Yes, that's amazing. I love that. That and me for having a better understanding of this, it allows me to identify it. And I feel like it's going to allow me to take it to the next level because I'm trying to take it to a level against the best in the world.
Well, you're creating the level.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I'm trying to set the bar.
You are not trying.
I'm going to.
You are setting the bar.
I am. I'm in it.
The bar has to be set in your heart, though, not your head. Once you set it in your heart and commit, you move it to your head because your head's a machine. It's just a brain. It's a mechanism. It's the engineer. It's how you get things done.
Yeah.
But your heart is what's going to allow it.
It starts right here.
Yes. Rumi said, your heart is always right. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
Run towards it. So if you're running from your heart, for your heart, that's a completely different run than if you're running from your head.
That makes sense.
Right.
I love that.
So step number 7 is gratitude. Now I can see that you're grateful.
Yeah.
I can see that you understand that you have been blessed. And in general terms, and gratitude is not a phrase.
Yes.
It's not a courtesy. Gratitude is a feeling.
Okay.
And if you're present, you can feel. If you're not present, you can't feel.
Yeah.
So in other words, if you're not present, you cannot be grateful. You can pretend you are.
Act as if.
You can act as if, but unless you feel it, unless you're touched, unless you have that warm, fuzzy feeling that spreads through your being, you're not there.
Yeah.
So it's another form of being in the zone.
You have to be in the zone to feel that level of gratitude.
Yes.
And I feel like the level of gratitude is when I have that moment to where I'm like, man, I don't even deserve this.
Yeah.
like you just look like, you just start laughing and smiling like, I don't know, you're like, why am I so blessed just to even be in this?
Yes.
But you have to be in the moment.
Yes.
It's hard. You don't want to be on your phone. You know what I mean. You don't want to be checking your Instagram or your emails or you know what I mean. And that's why it's hard for me. I love just being present in the moment. I don't understand how some people are good at it. They can multitask. They can drive, talk on the phone, and write.
Well, that's being distracted and absent, which is I'm not making that wrong. I'm just saying that the only way to actually feel is to be. If you're not, you can't feel.
Right.
And if you are not, you're not a being. You're a doing.
Right. Right.
And so, and with respect towards everyone that's out there and does what they do, then we're just talking about another level of experiencing and being connected to the Creator, to life, to each breath. And I love what you said about I feel worthy of this.
Yeah.
And that's what receiving is, because gratitude is receiving.
Yeah.
Gratitude is being connected.
Yeah.
And when you're grateful, you rejuvenate and restore your essence so quickly that it's like filling those batteries. Poof.
Oh man, and it's like it's like a snap. It's like a recharge. Like once I have that, like I kind of laugh, and I'm just like it's an indescribable feeling. It's a greater feeling like when I was on the medal stand, and I won my silver medal, and everybody was applauding for me. Like I was like, wow, but I was still trying to receive the medal and try to be in that moment. But I had that same feeling when little Charlie came up to me and walked up to me, gave me a hug, or I have that feeling when I complete a workout and I push it just a little bit more, and I ran faster than I ever ran in a practice. Nobody knew about it, but I have like, man, I don't even deserve this. I mean, wow, I'm in a good place right now. I'm just in a really good place right now.
It's being connected. And
that's greater than any dollar amount, any expensive car that I could be driving, any big house like that. That's true happiness. I feel like that's completion. Yeah, like it just feels so right. Just feels so right. And there's not a price tag on it. There's not, you know what I mean? It's just
no. It's not a price tag, and it's really interesting that it eludes so many of us, and it eludes me also because. Life is hectic and it's busy, and there's a lot of things to do, but to practice being is what we're coming back to. We're doing more meditation. My whole system, my approach, my language, and our dialogue is about being present, about being responsible, and restoring the process, the unity, and also the connection with the planet and with the source. But we need to be mindful of it, and I'm encouraging you and I to be also leaders in our field, where we realize that by inspiring people, not motivating them, because motivation is fear-based, by inspiring them to be the best they can so that they can share their light. And because once you share, you feel worthy, and then you can receive. And that's why I said it was so beautiful when you said that, I feel worthy, I deserve it. And when you deserve something in your heart, and everything falls into place.
I love that. I love when you said when you motivate somebody, you're doing it by fear. And you know what I mean? I always like to call myself, I'm a motivational speaker. You know what I mean? But I don't want to do it off of fear. I want to inspire. I want to be an inspirational speaker.
You're an inspiration. Right?
I'm an inspirational speaker. I want to be an inspiration. I don't want to be a motivator. I want to be inspiration to people.
Purpose is the rudder for inspiration. If there's no purpose, there's no inspiration. If there's no inspiration, there's no vision, there's no light. If there's no vision, there are no goals. But once you have that purpose and those inspired energies, then your goals are actualized moment by moment.
There is no end game.
There is no end game.
That's what it is. I'll never forget one of my scariest moments was I won my medals. I had sponsors. I had money in my bank account. I was on national TV. I played in the NBA Celebrity All-Star Game. I was meeting celebrities. I was with Kevin Hart. I was walking fashion runway shows. I was doing all these things that I thought that would make my parents proud. I thought that would make me feel good, right? And people was like, oh man, I wish I could have your life. And I was sitting there, empty. Wasn't enough.
Drained.
I was drained. And it was scary, because on paper, I checked off every list.
Yes.
As a kid, where I wanted to be, I checked off every list that I could possibly imagine, and I still felt empty. Alone.
Yes.
It was so scary.
It's like the people that I've met in my life that have everything except themselves.
I didn't have myself. I didn't.
But we're back.
I'm back. I'm definitely back, and it took a journey. I had to go on a journey, ups and downs, and I always say everything happens for a reason.
Absolutely.
I'm a true believer that everything happens for a reason: the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Well, we're manifesting it. We're attracting it. You know, and that's when we change our belief system, when we change our perspective, we change our frequency, and the moment we change our frequency, we attract different energies into our lives.
I like that.
That's
so
what
true. And people then once I changed that and made that change, it was like miraculous people started coming, just dropping in. People like you, just dropping in my life and just allow me to take it to the next level where I feel like I need to be.
Yes.
Or I need to be. Not try to be, where I need to be.
Blake, you are.
I'm here.
You here?
I am where I need to be at.
And we can talk about this forever, and we
Yeah.
will. We have to conclude this
Yes,
session at this point. And I am sincerely grateful for the opportunity to devote this time to our dialogue.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for sharing yourself.
I appreciate it. Thank you. We got to have a round two.
We
we definitely do.
definitely will.
Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate it.